You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. And finally, our third sponsor is 988. The Oklahoma 988 Mental Health Lifeline. 988 is a direct 3-digit lifeline that connects you with trained behavioral health professionals that can get all Oklahomans the help that they need. Learn more by visiting 988oklahoma.com. That's 988oklahoma.com. And now, let's get into today's episode. Let's get into it. Well, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Bruce Benbrook to the podcast, Oklahoma Hall of Fame board member, previous chair of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, and a lot of other boards where you're very involved with. But excited to dive into your story. Thank you so much for coming down. Obviously, we've just had a great lunch and heard all about the great things the Oklahoma Hall of Fame are doing, and now we're sitting down after lunch and going to chat a little bit. But Bruce, thank you so much for taking the time out to tell some stories today.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate it. I enjoyed the opportunity to be with you today.
So for most people who Google you, like, and your bio comes up, you know, you're from Woodward, right?
Right.
Woodward's probably not a town that most people in Oklahoma have visited, sadly. Tell me about Woodward and how was growing up in Woodward?
Oh, it was great. I've been there except for 4 years in college at Oklahoma State University and 1 year in Oklahoma City. I've been there my whole life. And so I'm a third-generation banker, and my family's been there for a long, long time, and thoroughly enjoyed. Woodward's a great community, about 14,000 people, and we kind of say it's the center of northwest Oklahoma. We love it there, about 150 miles from Oklahoma City, but a great place to grow up and a great place to live and a great place to do business. So love it there.
So growing up then in Woodward, families are obviously from there, and you mentioned Oklahoma State. Is your whole family Oklahoma State fans? Was
Pretty
it kind of a rite of passage?
Absolutely. My father went to Oklahoma State. My sister's an Oklahoma State graduate. My wife and our 2 daughters are all Oklahoma State graduates. So we're pretty much an orange family through and through. That's for sure.
So if you'd decided to go anywhere else, you might have been kicked out of the family then.
Well, I need to tell you the truth of the story is my father took me to an Oklahoma State football game when I was 3 years old. And at that point in time, I'd already made up my mind and I was ready to go. My mother told the story that the kindergarten teacher came when I was 5 out to the car when my mom was in line to pick me up and said that I wanted to take a poll of the kids in kindergarten on where they were all going to college. And most of the kids didn't know what that meant, but she said that I had told them that I was going to Oklahoma State University. So anyway, my mom laughed about that for years and years and years.
Yeah. And as well, is banking in the family? Is that kind of how you get into it?
Absolutely. My grandfather came to northwest Oklahoma and was in the bank in 1912.
Okay.
And then my father served as chairman and president and CEO of our bank until 1981, and I've been the third generation chairman and CEO since 1981.
Wow.
For the last 40-some years, 41 years, I guess it's been that I've been chairman and CEO of the bank. So third generation.
So going back then to high school, and you know when we're all in high school, we all have the biggest of dreams, and we want to go out and do what we want to do. What was obviously, I'm sure you probably knew at that time when you're a little older and you're 16 to 18, you know that, look, I probably have a path. It's going to Oklahoma State. It's going to be in the banking industry. But if you could wave a magic wand, is there anything you would have done instead?
At one point in time, I thought I would enjoy athletics. And I was a basketball player in high school. I thought one day I might be a basketball coach. But got to school at Oklahoma State, and my sophomore and junior year decided I better major in finance, and I did. So I graduated Oklahoma State in 1976 with a finance degree. and went to work for a bank in Oklahoma City for a year. And my father's health was not good, and about that time, and I decided, well, it's time to go home. And so 1977, I went back home to Woodward. So I've been in Woodward back there since 1977, and I haven't regretted it for 1 second.
Right.
Not 1 second.
It's beautiful out there, that's for sure. And I know, obviously had some good and bad things happen. Obviously you had fires, like most sad places, and sadly the fires, destroyed some great landscape and got away with, thankfully it didn't do too much damage, but, recently in the news that you had a lot of fires up there and stuff. But yeah, Woodward for sure, great place, and more people should visit there. And we recently had a great drone festival out there and bringing new things. I bet growing up, you probably didn't think that you'd have a drone festival in Woodward, Oklahoma.
That's for sure.
What is a drone? So
for sure.
Awesome.
And we're extremely fortunate to have many groups come to Woodward and want to come to Northwest Oklahoma, and we're excited to have them and do our best to attract all kinds of events, where it's athletic programs. We have a lot of baseball tournaments in the summer where people come from all over the state, and we have our Bowling Springs State Park, a little Sahara State Park over near Winoka, and again, many things with the arts and cultural activities like the Drone Festival was, and we continue to try to do things to bring people to see Woodward, Northwest Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're very proud of it.
Boiling Springs Golf Course is for
absolutely. It's one of the best in the state. We have people literally from Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma City, Tulsa, various cities around the state come to play Boiling Springs. It's a gem, that's for sure, in Northwest Oklahoma.
It's
wonderful golf.
100% a gem, and definitely worth the travel up there to go play it, and just to see what, with as little resources as they have, what the quality of the place that
it's wonderful.
Incredible.
It's been a great tourist attraction for us.
Yeah. So then you mentioned going back to Woodward. So Dad's health was kind of a concern. So you go back to Woodward to work, I guess, in the family business. Tell me about kind of what Oklahoma was like at that time, and you're recently graduated. You've got a few years of work under your belt. You're probably eager to make your mark on the world, and what's Oklahoma like at that time?
Well, at that point in time, I was extremely unfortunate that my father passed away at the end of '81, in December of '81, and then the first week of July of 1982, Penn Square Bank failed, and the banking failure started. And the next 4 or 5 years, and I was extremely young. I was at 28 years old, and it was a very, very difficult time. It's no question. The next from 1982 through 1986 was just without a doubt the most difficult time in Oklahoma banking, and it was very, very difficult. So I made a lot of mistakes, and certainly I was young, and it was a very, very difficult time. So we got through it, but it was a very, very challenging time, that's for sure, because our economy in Oklahoma was in terrible shape at that time, and we had numerous bank failures all over the state, and somehow we survived it and have continued to serve the community ever since. But truthfully, the first 4 years were extremely difficult. And, for a guy that just had 3 or 4 years of experience, and that's all I had at the time when July of 1982.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine what that must have been like if you listen to the news today, and people listening probably see the pending doom of a recession coming and all the other stuff that, we never know, right, until it actually happens. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who can really project this stuff, but I struggle to believe what's in the media, to be honest. I listen to the real people, so we'll figure that out. This might not age well if by the time this podcast goes out we've had a pending doom and problem with the economy, but fingers crossed, hopefully not. But you've been through something like that already, so you in all this experience that you have and the years that you have under your belt in the business, you've seen pretty much as worse as it can get.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, the early 80s were extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It's just hard to describe. If you any community in the state, the odds are pretty good that you had at least one bank fail. It was just very difficult. I guess I've just tried to forget the number of the banks, but I believe it was, over 150, I think, at the time. And it was just a very, very difficult time in the industry, very difficult time for our people. And certainly the economy was struggling a great deal. But the Oklahoma people rebounded and were resilient people, and throughout the state of Oklahoma, and we all got through it. And Oklahoma has been a better place, and we got through it, and better days were ahead, and certainly we've enjoyed that.
Yeah, and also, I guess, I mean, when something that bad happens, you could have easily just said, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to find a different profession and go in a different way, right?
Absolutely. It was to say it was a challenge would be a mild understatement, but all of my banking colleagues throughout the state would tell you the same thing. It was a very challenging and difficult times in many, many ways. But boy, we've had, since that time, the people of Woodward, Northwest Oklahoma, like I said, are resilient, and we bounced back, and our communities prospered and got through the difficult times, and our whole state did.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many positive things about the great state of Oklahoma, and I've been fortunate to live here my whole life, and wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, no doubt. And coming through that, and obviously, you know, setting the context earlier in this podcast, you're a huge Oklahoma State fan. So tell me, you know, when you graduate and you're going through this stuff in early business, when do you start giving back to Oklahoma State straight away? Are you very involved in alumni stuff from day one? Because people who know you now know you very much through OSU and have met you through OSU events and stuff like that. So when does that come in that you think, Mike, I should give back?
I started being involved on campus at an early age, and literally my senior year at the university, I served as student body president. Mm-hmm. And so I was very active and got to know the president of the university, obviously, and the various people that I worked with. So I served as my senior year at Oklahoma State. And so when I graduated, I was already involved and have been continually involved with the Alumni Association and the OSU Foundation and the various groups. And I was fortunate enough to serve a term on the Board of Regents for Oklahoma State University, and also served as chairman of the board of the Board of Regents for Oklahoma State University. I also served a term as chairman of the Oklahoma State University Alumni Association. So I've served in many capacities, but it's a love I have for the university and a love I have for education, higher education. I've been involved in not just Oklahoma State University, but at home. I've also served as president of the Oklahoma Foundation for Excellence, the statewide organization, and I found that my love for education, because I think it's so important, so important to the quality of life in our state. But I literally started my senior year in college and have been involved with the university ever since, in some capacity, just volunteering. I mean, in various organizations in various capacities.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Where does that come from that you think, I need to get involved, and then you find the passion in being involved and giving back and volunteering your time? I
was fortunate. I had parents that believed in giving back, and my dad, 40 years ahead of me, was president of the Student Senate at Oklahoma A&M when he was in college. And I don't know if that helped serve as an inspiration, but I've always enjoyed serving in leadership roles and trying to find a way to give back. I'm fortunate that I had parents that believed in that, and certainly I've tried to follow that lead in trying to find organizations, ways that I could make a difference in my community, and certainly my alma mater, Oklahoma State University, and any other statewide organizations such as the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. I believe that those organizations make a difference, and they serve as a great influence for our state and also help the quality of life throughout our state. Yeah.
Looking back, it's one thing to, for people to get involved in boards when they're older, they might be close to retirement, or they built a business and they're winding down. But, looking back at your story, you from a very young age, senior in college, you've been involved in this stuff from, not just doing your own work, but you've been very heavily involved in that stuff. So it's really interesting to see that and your passion for it from day one. Not, I'm not saying that some board members, some of them just don't have the time, right? And then they're busy building businesses. But it is really interesting to see that, your genuine passion and love for education in the state started at a very young age.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it is important. And I know my parents set the trend for me, and my wife and I have 2 daughters, and we tried, Rachel and Julia, and we've tried with both of them to literally let them see how important it is to give back in organizations. I'm pleased to tell you that both of my daughters have literally served in numerous volunteer organizations and figured out a way to follow that passion of helping other people. And so I feel like that was passed on to me from my parents, and so I tried to show my 2 daughters, Rachel and Julia, how important it is not just to have your job, but to do over and above, to try to help others, help organizations that truly make a difference in the community in our state.
Yeah. You just mentioned your wife. Where did you meet your wife?
Well, literally, we grew up together in
Okay.
Woodward, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of interesting. We had our first date in the 8th grade, and we got married several years later. But she also went to undergraduate, got an undergraduate degree from Oklahoma State University, and her law degree from the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so anyway, then we grew up together in Woodward, Oklahoma.
That's really cool. And I haven't met Julia, but I've met your other daughter, Rachel. We did Leadership Oklahoma City together last year.
Right.
And yes, Rachel is very involved with giving back. And I think at the time when we met, she was working for OSU's foundation,
She
maybe?
does still work for the OSU
foundation? Okay,
and
yeah.
obviously the OSU Foundation here in Oklahoma City, and she's very active, obviously, in raising money for OSU and other activities here in Oklahoma City. And Julia is in the TV business in Washington, D.C., but has also been involved in numerous nonprofit and charitable activities. So I'm very proud of both of them.
Yeah, no doubt. And, that's something cool to have, and something that, like you just mentioned, just the inspiration that your parents were to you, you get to have that and pass that on to your kids now. And, it must be really great to to see them have an impact and have an influence and raising money, and just, it must make you proud. It must make you and Cheryl really proud.
Absolutely. I'm extremely proud of both of them because they both recognize that they can make a difference.
Yeah. So the business then, but going back to the banking business, obviously you've been in it for a very long time. You've gone through the whole Penn Square Bank thing. Tell me about the bank business. I know nothing about the banking business. So other than giving out loans and taking people's money and making sure that you keep it in a safe place, like what's the banking business been like for the last 40 years?
The traditional banking model, of course, is that, like you said, you take in deposits and you make loans and you try to provide all the basic banking services that anyone needs, and that's very important. But I've always had the belief that a bank in a small rural community, it's more than just providing basic banking services, loans, and deposits. You need to take the lead, and you need to be a leader in supporting any nonprofit in the community. You need to make sure that you take the lead in programs that need help, whether it's I've made sure that our bank is always in the lead on helping our school system, our education. That is our number one priority. And we try to help all the local school districts in Woodward and Northwest Oklahoma with any of their needs, whether it be financing projects or having special things that they need to help the teachers. We started about 35 years ago the first Adopt a School program in Northwest Oklahoma, where our bank adopted the kindergarten center there in Woodward. And to this day, we still try to help the teachers financially, or try to help them with programs or anything that they need help with. But I feel like that a community bank is more than banking service. You've got to serve your community. You've got to serve the numerous nonprofits in your community that need your help, and you need to take a leadership role in that. I think it's extremely important for a bank to be successful is more than just profits. It's got to be, how do you serve your community? How do you help your community be better?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, because, in such a small community or in a small town, you are that hub, right? You're that reason, and you can't hide from anyone either, right? Like, you're going to church with these people,
Sure.
You're at the same restaurant, you're at football games, you are a part of the community, just like if you're, you own the mechanic shop down the street, or if you own the restaurant, like, you are an integral part of that community.
For your bank to be successful, your community has to be successful. And for that, the community to be successful, you need to have your local banker be involved and make sure that those various nonprofits, that there's so many ways that you can make a difference to helping. You need to take a leadership role, and you need to invest back in your community to make it successful. It's extremely important.
Yeah. So moving forward then, when did you first hear about the Oklahoma Hall of Fame? What was like your first memory of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame?
I truly wasn't involved, or literally had not much of a base knowledge till about, 7, 8 years ago. I got a call and asking if I would consider serving on the board of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And I truly was honored to receive the call, but truthfully did not have a knowledge, except I knew that they selected the Oklahoma Hall of Fame members. But other than that, I had very much a limited knowledge of the organization. And as I came on board, went through orientation sessions, and literally my first year on the board was a tremendous learning experience. And so I think I've been in the board in various capacities for about 7 years now.
Yeah, and then you finally get someone asks you, hey, would you like to be the chair of this board?
Yes, I was extremely honored and humbled, surprised, but about, 4 years ago now, I was asked if I would serve as chair-elect of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame board, and again, very surprised and humbled, not sure that I had the ability to do that, but I was excited and honored to be asked. It turned out that it had been 25 years since someone from Northwest Oklahoma had been chairman of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Did not realize that. Dr. Ed Calhoun from Beaver, Oklahoma was the chairman. Now it would be about 28 years ago, but the year that I became chairman, it had been 25 years since someone from Northwest Oklahoma. So in a way, I was very, very humbled and honored, but at the same time, I also realized I was representing my part of the state. And anytime I get that opportunity to represent Woodward, Northwest Oklahoma, I certainly want to take advantage of that. So I was excited to have that opportunity.
What for people listening that don't know what that entails? I mean, what's it? Because it's not easy and it takes a lot of time to do what you do, other than stand on stage and MC and be involved at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame presentation night, which is in November every year. What are the yearly what do you do every year when you're the chairman? Well,
the chairman's job is to oversee, and obviously the staff and the programs that the Oklahoma Hall of Fame is. We're extremely fortunate to have Shannon Rich as our president and CEO, and she runs this organization in a fantastic manner. And that makes the chairman's job pretty easy because you just oversee the organization, and obviously you chair the board meetings, but she reports to you, and all the rest of the staff report to her. But I've been extremely fortunate. The 2 years I served as chairman, we had a great team and a great organization, but you are leadership, guidance, counsel. You're there to help the staff any way you possibly can. But on a day-to-day basis, we have such a wonderful staff. It made my job easy, but I thoroughly enjoyed working with everybody down here. It was a great, great experience to be able to help in a small way, because my involvement was, I don't know that I made much of a huge difference, but I hope I helped a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and going back to what you said earlier, it kind of puts together, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame puts on so many great educational programs. And you mentioned earlier your just kind of passion for education, and it puts, those two together, right? And when you get these people in a room, all the board members in a room, and, they're extremely influential people in their communities.
Absolutely. We have them from all over the state, our board members, obviously Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and all the rural areas of the state are represented, and it certainly makes a big difference to make sure that you have a statewide influence. And the thing that attracted me to the organization after I got further into it was I really get excited about the educational part of it. Obviously, our number one objective is to select the members of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame each year. That's very, very important and very exciting, and it obviously is the prime focus of our organization. But we put on so many programs during the year, and I must tell you, some of the ones that excite me the most are the ones that we put on for the elementary age kids. And it is amazing to see these kids come in. They're 4, 5, and 6 years old. They have an opportunity to be exposed to the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They have an opportunity to be inspired by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. And hopefully when they leave after a day of having projects and activities and getting to learn about the outstanding people that are in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, we literally have made a difference in somebody's life. Mm-hmm. I've always taken the position that if you serve on a board or you serve on a commission, when you serve on that board, you need to ask yourself, are we making a difference? And I can assure you, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, with all the programs and activities we have, from young people, we have a group of high school students that meet and are organized helping the Hall of Fame. We have a group of young adults, our Second Century Board, from the young kids, 4 or 5 years old, all the way the high school kids to the young adults to obviously our regular board. But every organization that comes in this building leaves with a positive influence, thinking about the positive things that the members of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have done. And I can tell you, whether they're 4 or 5 years old, or they're 16-year-old, or their high school group, or a young adult group at 35, we are making a difference.
Yeah.
Where those people are coming and they're being inspired because they have an opportunity to see the great things that people before them have done for the great state of Oklahoma. And it excites me. I could go on and on about the influence this Oklahoma Hall of Fame has, but you can tell I've been excited about it in my service for the last 7 years because I truly do believe we are making a difference of the people of all ages as they get inspired by the things that they see in our museum and through our many activities and programs.
Yeah, and to that point, I'm fortunate enough to be on that Oklahoma Second Century board, and one of our big events that we've had this fall was Born and Brewed, where we have I think over 21 breweries from all over the state, and we have a great event at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. But as we just found out today, that event raised and will give back $60,000 to the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, which will go directly to educational purposes.
Amazing, it's a tremendous program.
It's so cool, and it's just to play a small part in that, and like you said, come here and volunteer with the kids and help make packets or whatever they need, and they for people listening, if you want free events for your kids to go to oklahomahallofame.com and you'll find them. Like we could spend hours talking about the programs and stuff that they do. Like if you're listening and you want to do something at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, there is definitely something for you to do here. All ages.
One thing that I spent one of our children's programs 2 years ago, I stayed out front and just shook hands with the people that came in with their little kids. And I will tell you, many of the kids that came may not have been able to come unless it was a free program. And that's what is so great about what the group that you're a part of, Mike, the Born and Brewed, how much you've raised, and our high school group and our adult board and all that. Those money that we raise not only helps put on our banquet, but more importantly, sometimes in my opinion, enables to have that free family programming. And that's extremely important. Because some of those kids may not have had the opportunity to be exposed to some of these great things that our Hall of Fame members have done. And that's where that money goes that we raise. We are investing back in the future of the state of Oklahoma by investing in those kids.
Yeah, and just walking through this building, I walk through it as a 32-year-old, and I can't help but get inspired by reading the stories and the Oklahoma Hall of Famers that are on the wall. I can't imagine how it is if you're 10 or 12 or 16 years old, right? Walking through this building thinking, I could be an astronaut. Right? Like I could go to space, or I could start a business, or I could take over, my family business and grow it to a global. Like there's so many stories and of so many different areas of business, and not just business, but charities or whatever. Like this building's full of them. It's just I see the inspiration side of it.
The inspiration. I keep saying the inspiration is what happens when. Like I said, people of all ages, it doesn't matter what age you are, from 3 up, you will be inspired if you come and walk through this museum. You will be inspired to try to do things for your community and for our great state.
Yeah. So other than, obviously we touched on you're a huge OSU fan and her family have been an OSU fan. You have a family history of being in the, in the banking industry, and you just have a pure love for education and giving back. There's no doubt in that in what we've just talked about the last 30 minutes, but what do you like to do for fun? Tell me about what Bruce does on the weekend when he doesn't have a board meeting to go to or an OSU game.
I'm not very good, but I'm trying to become a golfer again.
Okay.
I used to played golf in high school and played some in college, and so I've started trying to play golf again. And I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm going to try to get better at that. And one of the other things that on an annual basis, my family and I, we go to the mountains in Colorado every summer and spend 2 or 3 weeks up there. That's something I thoroughly enjoy. We go to Estes Park, Colorado, up in the Rocky Mountains, and just spend a great time. It's become a family tradition, so to speak, that we go up there. But I spend a lot of time. I like to go into OSU athletic events, and but I'm trying to pick up golf again, so that's one of the things I try to do in my spare time.
It's funny, I text Rachel this morning and I said, I'm interviewing your dad later, what should I ask him about? And the only thing she already touched on it, the only thing she replied to is she said, ask him about our family travels to Estes Park.
Estes Park, well, we have a cabin up there, and it's become a tradition. I've been going to this same area for over 60 years, and my 2 kids, they've been there basically their whole life, and so we named our cabin Tradition because we go there every year. So anyway,
that's really
family
nice.
Tradition. That's right.
Yeah. So golf and banking go together hand in hand too, right? So I'm not surprised you said you played golf from a young age and got into that.
Not very well, but we're working on it.
Where well, obviously Oklahoma's got some great golf courses in the state, and you know, Boiling Springs is on your doorstep in Woodward. But where do you go? What, you know, what's the golfing place? What's the golfing schedule, and what's your golfing, you know, ideal places
lately
to go?
I haven't had time. I've played in 3 or 4 charity events, but of course I always enjoy going to Karsten Creek there in Stillwater. I was on the board of regents when Karsten Creek opened many years ago, and have watched it become one of the best golf courses, not just in the state, but around the country. I'm not good enough to play there, but I thoroughly enjoy having that opportunity to do that when I get the chance. So,
yeah, that I mean, there's not many people that are good enough to go play Karsten every day, right? Like, it's so hard to play golf there. You will lose golf balls. Just know that before you show up.
That's for sure.
Rob in the pro shop will sell you more golf balls at the turn. Like, he will take care of you.
That is for sure.
That's really cool that you were on the board of regents when Karsten Creek opened.
Yes,
that's fascinating.
I got to see it, you know, when it started up, and it was exciting to see the progress of it and what it's become today.
Yeah, and you're right. It's such a great golf course and great design, you know, and now, I mean, it's, you drive by it. If you've been to an OSU game, you will have been to Stillwater, you will drive by and you will not notice that you've driven by it, which is I like that. But it's such a great place. Also, great food if you just want to go for lunch.
That's true.
Great food, and you know, and obviously a great selection of Pistol Pete, Swinging Pete stuff in the pro shop you can get, and just to walk through that. You know, I played it. I don't know, a few months ago, and walking down that hallway with all the trophies and all the history, and then you walk into the locker room, you see all the bags. Talk about inspiring. Like, if you want to become a golfer, or I mean, just as a tool to get you to go to Oklahoma State. I mean, that's true. That's the most trophies I think I've ever seen in a room.
Yeah, it's quite a place. You know, when they're recruiting not just golfers, but football players, basketball players, the men's or women's basketball teams. They will take the families a lot of times out to Karsten Creek for lunch just to see it, because it's such a beautiful place.
Right. So I'm assuming this, but a highlight of yours then must have been watching Oklahoma State win nationals at Karsten Creek.
Yes, I was fortunate.
A few years ago.
I was there that last day, and I was on the last hole when I was part of the big crowd there when word came down, you know, that they had clinched the national championship. So it was exciting. I was fortunate enough to be there that day.
Yeah, and the other thing that people probably don't realize is the fact that we have Boone Pickens' house is now on site.
It is, absolutely.
Right?
They've got it fixed up right there, and you can go see the house.
Yeah.
And it's a setting right there, not very far from the clubhouse.
Obviously a massive impact on the state, but on Oklahoma State as well.
No question.
Which is really cool.
Boone was just tremendous. Not just, the one thing about Boone Pickens was there's no question he transformed our athletic department, certainly our football stadium. I could go on and on about that. But in addition to that, the millions of dollars that he gave for scholarships from the education side were just tremendous. I mean, he helped our university in so many ways, and the impact that it just felt is, again, in and out of the classroom, Boone made a huge difference in our university.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Boone story you like to tell?
You know, I just met him 2 or 3 times. I just visited with him. He was somebody that really cared about the university. That's just what I remember about him. He would do anything for Oklahoma State University, and obviously made a major impact.
Yeah. It's and obviously name is on the building at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. He did great things, you know, for this entire state, and it's really cool.
Many other organizations and charities and hospitals. I mean, we could run the gamut of the things that Boone participated with, but he always kept OSU and helped any way he could.
Yeah. Going back to you being on the board of regents when Karsten opens, because I'm a golfer and I just kind of nerd out about this stuff and I find it fascinating. How does the conversation start? Like, what does somebody just propose to say, we're going to open a golf course and it's going to be in this plot of land? Like, how does how does somebody just open a golf course and it's going to be the state's course?
Coach Holder at the time, of course, this was the thing, and he basically went out and raised the money and got the land and made the thing happen, you know. And who Coach Holder then obviously became our athletic director, and it was a tremendous thing what he did. But as you know, that he put that together with no taxpayer dollars. I mean, he went out and raised the money, and so it was quite quite a thing to watch it happen. And
Yeah.
just tremendous what he did.
As a board, it's hard to turn down someone who already has all the money in hand and everything.
It's
already
been
got done.
even if you're not a golfer, it's just
Yeah.
been a fantastic thing for OSU and the Stillwater community and the OSU community. It's been fantastic.
And I didn't realize until recently that, the Karsten family is Karsten family of Ping.
Right, that's him.
I had no idea.
That's how that relationship started, and so he had developed that relationship with Carson Solheim, and that's Karsten Creek. And
Isn't that crazy?
There you go.
That's so awesome, and that makes a lot of sense why a lot of the Oklahoma State players play Ping.
Right,
Sure.
You got that right.
I never put two and two together, and now it makes so much sense. But I mean, it's such a great place to go play golf, but before that, you also mentioned you don't just go to football games and play golf. You go to a lot of athletic events. So
to try to, I've enjoyed going to a lot of basketball games also. If they fit the schedule, I really enjoy that, and that's for sure. And so we've been going to those games for a long time.
Yeah.
And really enjoy Coach Boynton and his staff, and gotten to know them, and they're just great leadership for our university. And obviously Coach Gundy's got the football program going in the right direction, so it's been fun to watch, that's for sure.
And I saw we have a recently new women's basketball coach too.
Yeah, Coach Holt, and I think this will be her first team coming up here in the next month or two when season starts, so we're excited to see what she can do. That's going to be fun. Everybody on the campus that's worked with her sings her praises, that's for sure.
That's really cool. And one of the other things I think I realized that the other day after doing a bit more research is obviously people know that wrestling is big in Oklahoma State and Oklahoma as well. Like, it's just a big sport. But we have a really good track.
Absolutely.
The running, of all most running, it seems like cross country is like the biggest out of them all. But it's, when you think of Oklahoma, you don't think of training and running up and down hills, do you? You don't think it's the ideal place to come and train to run. But we have some fantastic long distance runners.
Yeah, we have obviously Coach Smith is amazing. In fact, he was put in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame about 2 years ago, and our wrestling program is obviously fantastic, and the track and the cross country. My wife ran track at OSU when she was in school, in fact, so she pays a lot of attention to the cross country and the track, and so it's been we're just really fortunate to have a good all-around athletic program.
That's awesome. So finishing up then, obviously we've touched on a few things, mainly, job and love for Oklahoma State. And for people listening, if that hasn't come across in the last 30 minutes, I don't know if you're listening or not. But over your time and being involved with so many boards in the state, you've seen the state transform for the better, right? You've seen the educational programs increase. You've been on, numerous amount of boards and received a lot of awards, which I could spend 10 minutes reading out the awards that you've had. But, you're in the OSU Hall of Fame, you're in the Bankers Hall of Fame. There's so many. And just one thing as well, it says, you received the Community Hero Award from the American Red Cross. It seems like a big deal as well. Like, one of the most admired CEOs by the Journal Record. I mean, I could go on. But one of the things, the question I want to ask you is, over the years that you have been involved and after you graduated, what has been some of the biggest changes you've seen for the better, and just the highlights of just kind of your time in the industry and around the state?
One of the things I think, Mike, that I've noticed over my 45 years career is that the communities get better and better about helping each other. I think that we continue to try to find ways for programs to help our schools, to help those in need, to help those less fortunate. And I think I've seen that continue. I see so many nonprofits that focus on helping those less fortunate. And whether it's in the school system or outside the school system, or, there's all kinds of organizations and needs that need to be met. And I think one of the things that I think is great about the state of Oklahoma, our people care about each other. Our people want to make sure that the people in our communities, whether it's Oklahoma City, Tulsa, or the rural communities around the state, they want to make sure their people are taken care of. People find ways to help those less fortunate. I used the term earlier about serving on boards, find ways to make a difference. And I think that's what I've noticed over the last 45, 50 years, that people are more giving, people find ways to help those less fortunate, people find ways to make a difference for their community, for the betterment of everybody. And I think that's the thing that that I love about the state of Oklahoma. We have good people. We care about each other. We want what's best for our state and all our citizens, including obviously those less fortunate when they need help, we're there.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, you've seen it over the last 45 years of your career and how that's changed, right? And how technology has also changed the way that we give and the way that we support,
sure.
and for the better as well. So I'm sure, there's so many stories and cases that we could talk about. And, thankfully you've been extremely gracious with your time and been on boards, and I'm sure you get asked to be on a lot more boards, right? And you sadly probably had to turn some down because you're like, not yet, I don't have enough time, but, they will come around, inevitably. That's why we have board terms.
That's right. That's right. No question. I think that as far as board service is concerned, I think it's important that you don't take a board position unless you have a passion for it, unless you see the purpose, unless you're going to devote your time, energy, and resources to it. If you're just going to put your name on a board, I don't think you should do it. And I've known people have done that, and I always have to catch myself occasionally and say, do I really have time to make a difference in that board position? If you don't, then you're better off, the board is better off to find someone else that has the time and the resources and the energy to devote to that board at that time. It really makes a difference. The worst thing you can do as an individual is take up a position on the board, go to the meetings, don't offer any help, don't offer any resources, don't even offer any advice, just to sit there. And so I've tried to be careful of that. I've made that mistake myself in the past. I don't anymore because I think it's really important for the success of the organization to find people that want to be there.
Yeah. I've made that mistake. When you're a young professional, you get asked to do things. Like, yeah, this will be great. I'm involved. I know the people that are doing something, and I've made that mistake. And, it's a terrible feeling as well, is when you've committed to something and you know that you can't give it your best or give it your time, and sadly, other than, and then there are people out there who, like you just said, you just want your name on this board. It's a resume builder,
right.
Sadly, that's the thing. But yeah, just having to step back a few times and say, look, I don't have time for this right now. I'd love to be a part of it in the future, but right now it's not the best thing for me. That actually does the board better
Absolutely.
Than you just sitting there taking someone's place who doesn't do anything. So, and for people listening, if you are a young person and you want to get involved in boards in Oklahoma City, reach out, because there's plenty of places that we can help you fill into. But you're right, find a passion, and the boards that are around your passion, there is plenty, and I'm sure they're in need. But finally, finishing up, what are you excited about this fall? What are you looking forward to? Obviously, it's football season. We're off to a great start, beating Arizona State last week. Great win. I have a friend who's an Arizona State fan that was at the game, and I really enjoyed talking to him about the result. But what are you excited about coming up this fall?
Well, I think it's going to be a great time, and I think here in the state of Oklahoma, hopefully we can get the COVID issues behind us, and it sounds like we have, and people are getting out more, and hopefully we can continue to have more in-person activities, and things continue to move forward. Because as you know, we went to a 2 or 3 year period here with it was hard to get some things done. But I think as we move beyond this, I think that this fall is going to be a great time to be in Oklahoma. I think our Oklahoma people care about each other, and I think this is going to be literally a great fall. And I hope that people remember what we talked about here today. If you find your passion, find a way to get involved, and find a way to make a difference to help our communities and our state be the best they can be. And I think this is a great time because organizations are back, they're meeting together, they're in person, and it's kind of exciting to be a part of organizations that do that. And so find that passion, get involved, and make a difference in your community and your state.
Yeah, what a great way to finish. Bruce, thank you so much for taking some time out to tell us some stories and, share your Oklahoma story and just challenge the listeners to find something they love to do, get involved with it, and to give back, especially around education, because Lord knows Oklahoma needs help in education.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike, for having me.
Appreciate it. For everyone listening, I will post the link to Bruce's bio and maybe his contact information. We'll see. You can reach out if you have any questions about board service or Oklahoma State or anything like that. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those questions, or any places that you need to go in Woodward, restaurant recommendations. Boiling Springs Golf Course for sure is one of them to go visit. But thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you in next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And finally, our third sponsor for today, the Oklahoma 988 Mental Health Lifeline. 988 is the direct 3-digit lifeline that connects you with the trained behavioral health professionals that can get all Oklahomans the help that they need. Learn more by visiting 988oklahoma.com. It's 988oklahoma.com. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.